Hello everyone. I arranged the footage in chronological order for convenience. This footage seems to be the start of the game, where the prince starts running after a cutscene. It comes from the collage layout. If you are not aware, watch my earlier video about where these footage can be found. The interesting thing to note here is the design of the light source thing that can be seen here. I think it is a very interesting in terms of design and suits the atmosphere very well. This footage obviously shows the same area, but from what I could tell, it's not the exact same corridor. Also, you can see the same light source here as well, but in the right. I think these corridors correspond to these two corridors that can be seen in the original game. Next up we have this concept art. It shows the area where we pick up the Dagger of Time. We will have to wait to find out how it will look in the game. This is the cutscene where we pick up the dagger. Once again, this light source is interesting to me. But unlike the one earlier, I actually know about this a bit more. It is a very traditional lamp used in the ancient days. But even today people light these things and decorate their house during festivals. The background here seems to depict a devil. A stark contrast to the original. I have to say though, this scene is the worst way to open the trailer. It gives a very bad first impression about the game. It definitely gives a cheap look. I even think the reception to the trailer would have been much better if it was simply cut out. Also, this gives the first look to the new design of the Dagger of Time. The poor weapon has gone through 4 iterations so far. This is a screenshot of the same scene. It definitely looks better, but that doesn't mean anything. This is from the cutscene where the hourglass is stolen from the Maharaja. Unlike the original game, these cutscenes seem to be rendered with the in-game engine. Here is the same scene from the original for comparison. The cutscene where the hourglass is presented to the Sultan of Azad. This is a very different angle of the scene that wasn't seen in the original. Some standard shots of the scene were shown as well. Here we can see tigers. The original game was planned to have sand tigers as an enemy. They could be seen in the early trailers and also in the Game Boy Advance port of the game. But later they were cut from the game. But the fact they were included in this cutscene in the remake is interesting because there is a chance they might be brought back. And also, these tigers seem to be left in the open as opposed to the original where they were shown enclosed in a cage. This cutscene seems to be from the first fight. This is a screenshot from the first guest room. It looks pretty neat if you ask me. Again, these lights are interesting. Also, it seems like these stairs are not broken unlike in the original. At least not yet. This is a good time to talk about the life upgrade area as we are nearing the first life upgrade. Despite the obvious inspiration from the original, it has a very different feel to it. The original is much darker and gives a sense of being teleported to a place of nothingness very well. I cannot complain about the design in the remake though, it's just a different feeling. There was also this concept art shown in the collage layout. This seems to show the sketch of the design for the remake. Maybe it was an early prototype design, or maybe it is a plan for how the future builds are going to look. We can only wait and see. This also hits with a different feel, that neither the original nor the remake trailer give. This is the first look of the scarabs. They seem to be made of up sand, unlike the original where they had a more organic feel. Also we can see the classic Astrolabe logo. In every single instance it appears in this trailer, it is inverted as compared to the original logo. But apparently, this is the correct orientation of the astrolabe. Every single image of this I could find online show it in this orientation. Speaking of historical significance, let's talk about the swords. Apparently, all the 4 main swords from the original game have been changed to depict swords from actual Persian and Indian history. Rather than talking about it for too long myself, I would like to direct you an amazing video made by Isen. You should check that video, and also his other videos about the remake, they are fantastic. But in a nutshell, these 4 swords from the original have been changed to these 4 swords in the remake. This is obviously the palace defense puzzle. There is nothing much to talk about it really. Fun fact about this though, this was technically the first piece of the remake that we were able to see. It was posted to Ubisoft's Instagram account a day before the Ubisoft Forward event. Looking back though, we can see that this pic was also a part of SOT remake that was shown here. This is the trap courtyard before the fight with the Sand King. We can even see the palm tree when the camera pans. I wonder if this infamous trick using this tree will still work. Also, this trap layout is exactly same as the original, but I cannot help but notice that the saw blade is spinning in the opposite direction. I guess they found that it is a mechanically impossible configuration to have it spin that way or something. This shot is meant to mainly showcase the rewind mechanic in the game, but it also has some other interesting details. First of all, we get the first look of a sand cloud. They seem to have this golden appearance as opposed to the pure white texture they had in the original. This new texture makes more sense given it's something related to sands. This shows the sand cloud in another perspective. It's blurred as it is in the background, but at least we get a better idea of its shape. I like this shot a lot as it shows a lot of details in the design of the prince's outfit, the dagger's sheath, etc. The main thing to note about the rewind mechanic is that it seems to cause a faint yellow haze effect, and also seems to make these glowing particle things go crazy. These particles seems to serve the same purpose of giving hints about the location of a sand cloud or a life upgrade, like they did in the original, but in general the remake seems to have a lot more of them. Wait, something seems missing here. If we compare it to the original shot, we can see that the sand cloud is gone. How did this happen? Well, I have 2 theories. 1, they might have tried to get a shot of him absorbing the sand cloud for the trailer, and might have not liked the result for some reason. So they must have retaken when the sand cloud is gone. And the second theory, is that for some reason, while rewinding, all the things related to sands disappear. Here is the fight with Princess Dad, now turned into the Sand King. Again, like the scarabs we saw, all of these sand monsters seem to be covered in sand. Personally, I don't completely hate this decision, but it definitely raises some questions like, will they survive the waters in areas like the harem? Because they did in the original. This design would have suited the enemies in Warrior Within more, which actually cannot survive water. There seemed to be a fundamental difference between the human-turned sand monsters and pure sand monsters made by Kylina herself. Then again, the prince himself was a human-turned sand monster in the 3rd game, and he, at least his infection, did not survive water. So maybe the remake will have different kind of interaction between water and enemies. This is another shot of the Sand King. Here we can get a better look of his sandiness, if there is even such a word. Here we can see the prince actually in combat. So far all the moves we see are taken straight from the original. What's different however is that there seems to be a light trial caused when the prince or the enemies swing their weapons. It is worth noting that this was also seen in the prototype version of the original game and also in the PSP version of the Two Thrones titled The Rival Swords. This seems to be the cutscene after the fight. Judging by the prince's expression, this seems to be the part where Farah asks the prince to trust her. This is from the same cutscene, at the end, where he agrees for her to join his adventure. It is fascinating how there is a sudden change in his tone and expression. I am eager to see how the full cutscene will play out. Also here she starts moving before the prince finishes his dialogue, which was not exactly the case in the original, even though the exact same dialogue is being spoken, albeit in a different tone. This is the area after the fight with Sand King and before the warehouse. This area is used as the background of the title card, and also had a lot of screenshots, which shows that the devs were confident about showing this area a lot. This is the cutscene after Prince and Farah jump out of the window. It shows the same area and there is a lot to uncover here. Here there is another sand cloud. Beside it there is this lantern kind of thing that looks really interesting. Here we see the inverted logo again. Overall this scene has a really neat atmosphere. There were also a couple more screenshots. This one shows the full area again. And this one shows both Farah and Prince in combat.